Welcome to Cloud Training for Enthusiasts. My name is Dr. Patrick Aigbogu, and today we are going to be talking about a little about security, cloud security, and what is a route table, what is a security group, what is elastic load balancer, what are load balancers, what is elasticity, what's auto scaling. We're going to be talking about that in today's class. But we are going to be building our class together so that we understand the basic fundamentals of infrastructure as a service offered by AWS. So before the lab, we have already started it. We've talked about, last class we talked about bare metal and VMs. And today we are just going to take a deep dive to know the difference between the route table and the security group, which is also known as firewalls. And why are CIDR nodes different from 0.0.0? Why we shouldn't use this CIDR in our production environment, and why we should even use it if we have to use it. What is the difference between a local host and 127.0.0.1? And what is the difference? Why do we need to use a VPN to connect our resources? Or why should we use a Bastion host? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Our training is going to center around it. So thank you. Okay, let's continue. So this is when you are using a company VPN, every user have to connect to a VPN, and that VPN, which is a private network, we have virtual private network. We have an IP address, and that IP address is what will be mentioned throughout the resources, even your Kubernetes engine. And when you set this as your CIDR for your either SSH to your resources, it means that this is the only network that can connect to it. Even there are some websites, there are some company websites that nobody can connect to it except using this IP address. So if everybody go to your system now, you say, what is my IP? What is my IP? Can you put it on your web stuff? My IP, just put my IP.com, my IP, just put it. I think you see my IP address. Yes, just say my IP.ms. You see that this is my own IP address. Fine, because I'm using my system, and this is what I'm using. This IP address may change. You understand me? But if you put it, you see, it tells the details about my own IP. So I'm in Lagos, my location and everything. I'm using Google browser. I'm using Linux. You see all my details about my system is here. You noticed it? Okay, I think I have a note on. Let me see if I have a note on antivirus. Okay, in my other system, this is not my work environment. This is not my work system. This is just my personal system. In my other system, if I enable my VPN, my IP address will change. I will not be using the VPN of my security group. But now I'm using an open network. So my ISP allocated one public IP address to me, and that public IP address is what you just saw. And if you check in your system, you see that everybody will have different IP addresses. But because we cannot be loading all our IP addresses in our VM, that's why we just better put 0.0.0.0 so that anybody can connect to it. You understand me? But in a work environment, they don't allow that. There are other things you can also do. Excuse me, let me show you another things you can also do. So company will say, okay, I don't want to restrict my staff. I want them to have liberty to do anything they want to do. But however, I will want them to connect through a VM in the AWS environment. And that VM, through that VM, they cannot connect to other resources. You understand me? So, and that is called adapter, also known as Bastion host. So, okay, now let's create a VM here. Let's create a VM. This VM is going to be a public VM. But we are going to have our own, because all resources must be in private VM for security purpose. You understand me? then like this. But we'll put this public VM in the same VPC, virtual private network, so that this VM, because when you say a system is in private network, it means that only the VM in the VPC will be able to connect to it. You understand me? Let's call this thing VPC. Yes, stay with me. If you are missing it, just mention. Say I'm missing it. I'm not getting it. I will come back. I will have to start. Okay, now let's call this VPC. Let's call this particular one our VPC. You understand me? Then this is our public VM. This is our private VM. Private VM and private VM. So in our last class, what we just did was here, and we put a VM here. We're able to SSH into it. You understand me? It's not the best practice to put a workload in this VM that we're able to SSH yesterday. And we created two subnets, Abby, in our last class. We created two subnets. Can you remember? Huh?
Yes.
And we called it two subnets, one public subnet and one private subnet. Somebody was asking what's the difference between a solution architect and a cloud engineer. Most times people mistake them to be the same. They are not the same, but they are similar. You can be a cloud engineer and be a solution architect. You can also be a solution. You cannot. But what's the difference between a solution architect and a cloud engineer? Cloud engineer maintains every activities about the cloud resources, while a solution architect look out for the best application resources that can provide a solution that the client wants. So most times, cloud solution architects are expected to have an idea about programming language to be able to design using a different programming language. You understand? Because you are expected to provide the best application, the best programming language that can give that solution. You understand me? So it's more than just knowing about cloud resources. It's about knowing the kind of application, the kind of parts that the application must have. Sorry, I'm trying to build our class. I think I've explained it. So this one was our private network. This one was our private subnet. This is our public subnet. Okay? Public, private, we'll call it subnet. Public subnet. Let's take note of this. This is our private subnet. But because both of them are in the same VPC, they can connect to each other. Call it private SBN. Let me take it off. Take it off. Sorry, it's looking somehow like this, but get check. VPC folder. Take our private subnet. Okay, This is our private public subnet because it has internet gateway in and out. This is our private subnet. It has only the NAT gateway attached to it. You understand? So this public subnet, we did it that anybody can connect to it. The way we design it, we didn't specify the stuff. So company we say, okay, fine. I wouldn't want to disturb everybody before you connect to our AWS resources, because this is our AWS resources. What I want to do is that I will want anybody that want to connect to any resources, maybe our database and co, must first of all connect to these public resources, and from the public resources connect to our private resources. And in that case, that's what we call Bastion hosting, like an adapter. Okay, you understand? So some company will not want, some company will decide, some company will still have this, so they will still have, most company will have this VPN, or they will also give you the same capacity to either connect through here you understand? So company will allow you to do this. But just as some application that they want to run, they will say you should connect it through that. If you want to access that application, you must access it through a VPN. For example, an admin service. You know, admin service now talks about administration and it must be secure. They'll say you have to connect through the VPN. But sometimes you say, I don't want to bother my staff. I don't want them to really have stress. But I want them to connect. But however, if they must connect to any database, they must connect through this private subnet, through this public subnet. And that process is called what? What did I call it? Huh?
Bastion host.
What did I call it?
Bastion host, from public to private. Bastion host.
Okay, it's called Bastion. Bastion. I will spell it now. Some people will call it Bastion. It's not Bastion. And so call it Bastion, but it's actually Bastion. Or you can call it adapter. It's looking, let's just put it this way. So you can connect to some resources through the VPN, or you can connect direct to the Bastion host. The spelling of Bastion host is this. Let me bring it down so I can write it. Well, Bastion, B-O-S-T-I-O-N. You understand me? Bastion. It looks like Bastion, but it's not Bastion. It's called Bastion host. So this is what differentiates us from those people that went to just do certification and come. Because this way you can only get this true experience. So what we did in our last class, we built this private subnet and public subnet in a VPC, but we only just set up this Bastion host. But we've not set up this private subnet. Now, let me also share something again. If our resources are in private subnets, what does that mean? Nobody can connect to it. Abi? Then how can our resources that is inside be able to be accessed? Does that mean? If it is a private subnet, meaning it does not have a public IP address, a private VM. So the question is, how do the resources inside? Because these are the things we are going to demonstrate today. So there is what we call a load balancer. Can you hear me? So for example, we have, so you can either connect to it through a Bastion host, or through a load balance. You can allow that resources to come out, for example, control T, control T, control T. This is, and this is. Let's just give it one more. Variety is the spice of life. That was why our grandfather married many wives. If you try them now, you're on your own. Okay. Now, what is a load balancer? This is what I want us to talk about today again. What we are doing is called high-level language. There's a symbol, there's a schematic diagram to it, which we are going to do. But I just want us to build the class together. Okay, now, 2, 3. You see, one thing I love about building a class together, you will not forget. You understand me? You will not, you can never forget it. And you can do it by yourself. You understand? Because you were there when the class was built and before we started doing practicals. So let's liken this to be a load balancer. Let's liken this to be a load balancer. Okay. From what you notice now, this is a user. Let's call this one. Let's say this person is Dollar Pop or Dolly Pop. Let's call this Dolly Pop. Sorry, this I can spell your name. No verse. Or a say we. Let's call this person again. Let's call this person Dolly Pop. And this is our VM, VM1, VM2, and VM3. They could be private. It's not compulsory they must be a public VM or private VM. But most especially, we always recommend them to be public VM. Well, these are the things we are going to do. We have two type of load balancer. We have internet load balancer. We also have application load balancer.
Application network.
We have classic load balancer and other load balancers. What does a load balancer do? One, a load balancer sends traffic to VM or to subnet, and a load balancer also help us to check if those services are all available to receive load. The word load, let me explain the word load here so it won't look so heavy for us. You know, when you say something is called load, meaning that it's collect, people are using it, Abi? Meaning somebody is using it. Okay, these are users, meaning public users. For example, all of us using WhatsApp. We are all using WhatsApp. Let's call this one our WhatsApp. WhatsApp. So this WhatsApp application, most of us have it either in Android or you have it in iOS. Abishe? So this is the application we want to consume. So this becomes the load. The public becomes the load. The application becomes the resources. You understand? So this is what the word means. The word load means. So everybody wants to use, Abi? Everybody, both Dolly Pop, everybody is using it. Let's even this Zoom now that we are even using now. The Zoom is like a software as a service. Everybody is connected to the load and using it. So this is the application. This is the load. The public is the load. So what you're now saying a load balancer means these are the public using it. Are you getting me? So what does this load balancer do? This load balancer, what it does is that it looks out for the public and see if anybody hits it, maybe connect to it, which is this WhatsApp now. So what he does, he look out for the VM that is available or that have that particular URL that you are asking for. It will send traffic to that place. Are you getting me? And also take the traffic back and give it back to you. Do you understand now? Do you get it? Yeah. So a load balancer, look, everybody, for example, this is the public hitting this. This public is this lollipop. Pick the message, automatically send it to the VM. Are you getting me? Then get the answer and return it back. So this is what a load balancer does, whether internet load balancer or application load balancer. The other thing, the only difference is that they have different layers. Please, bear with me.
I'm sorry, Patrick, but I thought a load balancer like distribute the load across the VM.
Depends on how you configure it.
Okay.
Understand me? If you configure it like to be a round robin, it distributes it evenly. You understand me? But you can also configure it in a different custom configuration where you can say, okay, only send traffic to the VM that is available, not because of traffic, but because of availability or the space. And what also some load balancer does, like the application load balancer, they also have the capacity to do what we call availability test. We'll test the VM and see if the VM is okay. If the VM is not okay, we remove it out of the system. So that those ones that are working, be receiving traffic. Then we also test it again. If after despite that has left the system, we test it again. If this VM is back, we return it back. That's what we're going to be talking about. But the load balancer do and test those things. So it depends on how you configure it. But this is the work of a load balancer. Don't see this load balancer as something that is heavy. Most load balancer are used, they are like an application. Like for example, you can use Nginx to do this load balancer. Most times I've used Nginx. Remember when we did our VM last time, we installed an Nginx inside, Abby? Shay?
Yes.
We installed an Nginx. So that Nginx is a web application. It can also serve as a load balancer. So I will explain to you, in our next class, not this one, because I don't want it to be too heavy for you. So this load balancer is an application. But for Kubernetes, most Kubernetes uses service load balancer, which most times they are IP and network load balancer. I'll also explain to them when we get to that place. We'll just understand the basic concept of a load balancer. Now we have built our load balancer. We have built Bastion host, so that when we go to practical, we shouldn't miss it. We have also built the reason why you should not use 000, why you should use 000. So what are the services that you put in your private network? Resources that you know that are very crucial, that if anybody attack it, it will affect. So most times you put your database in private, you put most of your resources in private. Some resources that you put in your public, and this thing are most times a webhook. Sometimes webhook, you put some webhook. I'll tell you the meaning of webhook. Webhook is just like an interface between two applications. You understand me? So that's what the things. But take note of these things I'm saying. Now, what's the difference between application load balancer and network load balancer and classic load balancer? Is the layer. You understand me? So please take note of this too, because I didn't mention it in my last class, but I'm saying it here. In networking, there are what we call different layers. We have layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, layer 6, layer 7, layer 8, and so on. That is not within the scope of this class, but I will just mention just the two things. This talked about MAC address. This one talks about, this too is mostly like MAC address too, but most times this one also have to do with a route, your routes, your route cable, your what do you call this, your router, and so on. But layer 4 talks about IP. You understand me? While layer 7 talks about application. So what does that mean? From we have layer 2, layer 3, we have the DNS, we have other, the DNS start from here. Most time when we want to connect to the internet, we connect through a DNS, abi. DNS means domain name service, abi. Like www. Like google.com. If you type google.com here, google.com, google.com. Most times, depends on how they design it, it could be a layer 7. Most times it's layer 7. So we have different load balancer. We have the load balancer that can transmit at level 4, which is using an IP address. Some Kubernetes services make use of this layer 4. While some Kubernetes services make use of this layer 7, which is talking about more of URL and application inside. So does it mean that this one is better than this? No, they have their own advantage and disadvantage. But in AWS, most times they make use of this layer 7 very well. All these layers have their own networking parameters inside. You can go and do the research about it. But this one is faster to connect. This one talking about the application inside. For example, remember when we were doing our VM, we have our VM has a public IP address, AB, and private IP address. You noticed it. We're able to connect through it to a public IP address. You can also decide to have a DNS name. So an application can, let me not bother you because this one is going a bit deep. But I want to come back to it when we are going to Kubernetes. We'll talk about it more. But just understand that we have IP address, we have a elastic application load balancer, we have a network load balancer, we have classic load balancer, we have API load balancer, and so load balancer. What is a load balancer? A load balancer takes traffic and distribute it to available services and return back the services. Understand? So, okay, now let's talk about auto scaling. And from there, we'll now go to our practical class. Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you understanding? Hope I'm not too fast. Of course, Kingsley, Prince Wayne, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you understand?
Yeah, I think I have an idea. Trying to find it, yeah.
Toby,
But you mentioned there are 3 load balancer. You later mentioned API. Is it 4 or 3?
there are 4. But different cloud provider have their own. But when we go to AWS, you're going to see the different load balancer that AWS have.
Okay, I went to Google. AWS, Elastic Cloud, that's 3. It's 3.
How many? 3, Abby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Network, classic, and application.
That was, remember I told you that this cloud provider, they are building heavily. They are building heavily and they are getting different load balancer. You'll be surprised. That was the one we had. That 3 is what we have in mind. That was 2019, 2020. But when it gets to 2021, 22, we have different load balancer that is added to it. You know, we will see it when we get there. You understand? But the basic one that we are familiar with are 3: classic, application, and network. You understand? Network is layer 4. Classic is more of like application. Then we have application which is layer 7 and layer 8. Okay. Now, what is an autoscaler? Let's talk about autoscaler a little. Then we'll go into practice. Then I'll tell you how to build an autoscaler. Come here. Okay.
Scaling your server.
Yes, scaling up a server. Before, let's talk about autoscaler. before, let me put Control T here. Please, I beg all of you, don't miss any class from today, from that, in fact, from last week. Let's call it auto scalar, auto. So you see the word auto scalar, Abi, means scale to scale. What do you mean by to scale? Mean to increase, to add. You know, when we were in our last class, we only just did one VM, Abi. We did one VM. Assuming load is coming to that VM, and I've already explained to you what the meaning of a load, Abi. A load is coming to that VM.
Yeah.
Meaning people are connecting to that VM to pick resources. When the VM have reached its capacity, maybe the storage, the processor, and everything, what will happen? It will stop receiving traffic, Abi.
Yeah.
Stop receiving load. Or if it's not well configured, it can even crash. Then the system don't crash, because the load is getting too much. So before, in the cloud native, in a private cloud, what we do is that when we see that the VM is getting load up to like 60%, let's say 60% or 70% load, which is the standard. The load, your VM should not carry more than 80%. In my company, when I was working in private cloud, what I always set, I don't set for 80, I set for 65. That was my maximum load. Forget about people who say you set it at 80. It's not best practice because sometimes some load can increase from 65 to 80. You understand me? Surge can increase. What will happen? Your system will crash. So we always say that immediately the load is getting to 65, you should send an alert. We'll start monitoring it. What you do is that you go and create another VM, let's call it another server. You now configure your load balancer to start sending traffic to it. I won't lie to you. The time it takes to commission a server, is not being so. It's not like what we are doing now. You saw yesterday, last week Saturday, we just went to AWS, we just spin up a VM, and all of a sudden, before 15 minutes, the VM was already up. In a physical data center, it's not like that. It takes time. You have to configure your network, you have to configure your VM, you have to look at your RAM, you have to call for the power, you have to make sure that the power is set up, you have to connect all this power, all those things. After doing that, you will now power up your VM, you now put your hypervisor, you now put your OS. It takes time. It takes like sometimes to commission a server, then it used to be minimum of 8 hours. That's if the network is already set up, if everything is already set up. But if it's not set up, it can take up to like 1 week. In fact, it's a task. Say, Patrick, we are coming to commission on that server today. You see some able-bodied men carrying VM to your data center. They will now lock it, put the cable. Sometimes you will have like 3 power sources. But this is what cloud is taking away from us. That's stress. So what we do is that when the load is increasing, we'll go and set up another VM, another server, or set up another VM so that it can start taking load. But with the help of cloud, you can design a system. You can design a system. That system will be called an autoscaler. Let me use this symbol. Okay, let me use this symbol. You can design a system that will be able to shrink, that will be able to automatically spin up a VM when the load is increasing and reduce the VM when the load is decreasing. For example, we can say whenever any server gets to 80% or 65%, and they maintain it for 15 minutes, or let's say for 5 minutes, or depends on the time, say maintain it for 5 minutes, that the system should spin up another server. You understand me? Then immediately get to another 15 minutes, another 5 minutes, this server, you understand me? You know, automatically, because we have already designed the load balancer will be sending traffic to it. You understand me? Then immediately the server gets to this one is up to 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It will also spin up another server. But immediately the load reduces below 65%, maybe it goes to 60. What will happen?
You should shut down the other server.
Beautiful. We'll start shutting down server. Immediately this one gets to, we first of all remove this one, we shut it down. You understand me? Immediately this one gets to 65 again. If 65, we should shut this one down. This one is 60. This one is 60. This one is 65. Immediately this one gets to 65, 60, maybe it maintains 60. We are going to be the one to design it. Immediately get to 60, to automatically remove this one. You understand? We'll start taking this load. This one will be the only thing. So all these things will take place within few seconds, within microseconds, depending on the time. So we'll be reducing this. Immediately we see again that is 65. It's going to 65 and for 5 minutes, and it's maintaining 65 for 5 minutes. Automatically another VM will spin up. So this part of cloud characteristics is called high availability and scalability. So we are going to be designing this autoscaler today, if time permits us. So you see, we are designing so many things today. So this is what autoscaling does. So what autoscaling does is that it removes VM, it put on VM. But the question is, which VM is it going to put? Is it just going to launch? If you launch an empty VM and add it to this, what will happen to it? Because the application that is here is not here. Meaning this one will be accepting traffic. If you send traffic to here, because this application here is not here, what will happen? This one will not be able to send the information, Abi. So that is why for you to set up an autoscaler, there are so many parameters you must set up. So what are the parameters that you have to set up, first of all? So we're going to start with this. What are the parameters you have to set up for an autoscaler to work? One, you must set up a VM, because the VM that is going to spin up is not going to come from heaven. You are going to tell this autoscaler the kind of VM is going to pick. For example, if this VM that we already set up that is already working, we can decide to say, okay, use this same VM to set up, to scale up. We're going to set up a VM, and that VM is called custom VM. Because that VM, you're going to specify the type of VM is going to carry. Two, you're going to tell the system to carry an image. Remember I told you what's an image. An image is more than, if you say what's an image, you can say an image is an operating system. No. You see this application that is running here, you can decide to clone this application. What do I mean? You know, every application has a hard drive, Abi. Let's say a hard drive, a storage, a block storage. So what we're going to do is that we can design it to say, okay, this block storage that it has, you clone it. What do you mean by clone? Meaning you copy it the way it is. Every file inside, you copy it the way it is, and you copy it and save it somewhere. That one will become a custom, let's say, storage with this application inside. And that particular kind of storage, copying of that storage, we will call a custom image. And you will do it in a way that this application that is running, what you are going to save is the application that is running, just that it's not going to be running inside a VM. It's going to be running somewhere. So that whenever the system wants to scale up, the system will scale up using this storage. You understand me? And using the exact VM. So you must set up a custom VM. You must set up a custom image. This custom VM will carry the same parameters that this system carries. So that when it's spinning up, it's going to spin up the replica of this. It does not mean that you cannot spin up a more advanced VM. For example, now if this VM that you are spinning up here has, let's say, one core, and say 10 GB hard drive. Because it filled up in time, Abi. That was why you're scaling up, Abi. You can decide to say, okay, the next VM that is going to spin up, let that VM has 2 core and storage of what, 20 GB, so that it will not fill up in time. You understand me? That type of scaling, you can call it horizontal scaling. It's not a vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling meaning the system is scaling up horizontally, not vertically. So you can also design your application like that, to scale up horizontally, not vertically. But you can decide to say, please just keep increasing the VM by itself. So because I arrange it like this does not mean this is horizontal scaling. No. Horizontal scaling, what it does is that it will shut down, it will create another VM that is bigger than this VM. Sometimes it will shut down this VM and start using that bigger one. You understand me? The minute that one fill up, it will increase another size and shut down. You understand me? But that horizontal scale, that vertical scaling is risky for application, because during that time of scaling up, sometimes you can have downtime. That's why some application uses horizontal scaling, so that this one will be running, you scale up another one, you scale up another one, you keep scaling up. And when the application is going down, it shrink down again. So this is what auto scaling is all about. Don't forget what I said. For you to have an auto scaling, you must have what we call a custom VM and a custom image. I told you a custom image means the application that is running, you are cloning the hard drive. So you are actually having the same everything that is inside a hard drive in the new VM that you are going to be staged, because you are going to have a storage. You're going to have a storage.
So Patrick, where will we put that storage?
You're going to create
that image itself. So is it that EC2 template or no?
Beautiful. It's going to be an EC2 template.
Okay.
So you're going to create a template. A template means this is what you are going to be following anytime you want to scale up. So these parameters must be met.
Okay, sorry, Patrick. I'm sorry to force to go further away, but Terraform, is Terraform going to help you to do the installation if you have multiple VM instances?
I didn't get, you said if what?
If Terraform will if you have a lot of servers, is Terraform the one that will be able to help you to install everything on your VM?
Okay, you mentioned
I'm just curious.
You have curious.
Terraform.
Let me tell you.
I'm just
you
curious.
mentioned Terraform. The word Terraform is an application infrastructure as a code. Which means instead of you going to the console to be designing remember when we went to launch instance last time, we went to the console, we picked the VM we like, or you can use coding to do your infrastructure. So when you are using coding to do your infrastructure, it's called infrastructure as a code. And we have more than just we have a cloud formation, we have Ansible, we have Puppet. I want to be talking about Terraform as a code now next class. Then we have there's so many Terraform infrastructure as a code. So if you design your auto scalar with your Terraform, the Terraform will only just, it's just like zombie. Whatever thing you define in the code configuration file, it's what is going to follow through. But if you don't have a custom image already set up in your infrastructure, Terraform cannot set it up with you unless you tell Terraform to create a custom image. Are you getting me?
Okay.
And use it. So you must have a code that will create it. But that will be a class on that day. But these are the things you must do. You must first of all create. Thank you so much for that question. That's the intelligent question. Thank you. So you must first of all create these are the parameters you must create. A template, a custom VM, which is a VM template. So we can call it template. This parameter is also known as template. Understand me? So you must have a custom image, custom VM, meaning which mean by custom VM, you must specify the type of VM that the autoscaler needs to scale up, use. Okay, when you are scaling up, use a Core I, use this image, maybe use Linux, since all the system here are using Linux, Ubuntu, use Ubuntu Linux, you understand me? But in this case, instead of you to be saying use Ubuntu Linux, use everything, use this image. This image is cloned from this hard drive. So if it's Ubuntu that is here, be rest assured it's going to be Ubuntu here. Use that. You're going to take a VM and take a custom image and take the storage and start. And this thing will happen in less than say 5 minutes. So immediately this load is increasing, automatically it will just pick up the VM, pick up the storage, the image, pick up the storage, and automatically create an instance and attach it to this autoscaler. Kubernetes engine does it, and everything do it. You will see it's part of the parameters. So get that in. So what would determine the auto scaling is the load balancer. Understand me? If the load balancer is sending load to the system and the load is getting to 80%, the autoscaler will take note that this load is getting there's no resources. So okay, what do I scale? Don't forget, autoscaler is not an automatic thing. That's why we call it autoscaler. We are going to be the one to set up the autoscaler by ourselves. You understand me? So you can say scale 1 to 10, scale 2, start with 2. When the thing is increased, keep scaling up to 10. But immediately you set up autoscaler to 10, it means that when the VM reach 10, we will stop scaling up. You understand me? But if you don't set up autoscaler, sometimes you may have a virus or an attack. The system will just be scaling up unnecessarily, and at the end of the day, be having more depth that you're not supposed to have. So now we've talked about load balancer, we talked about autoscaler, we talked about a Bastion host and a VPN connection. Abi? So now we've talked about this. We talked about firewalls and route table. Route table talks about how people can access your internet, your resources, by either be a private internet gateway, by talking about the kind of gate that's going to enter, while a security group talks about the port that you are going to enable, just like the type of people you will allow to come in, the type of network that you will allow to come in. So do we have different type of ports, different type of network? We have like SSH. SSH is port 22 AB. Like HTTP is port 80. HTTPS is what? Port 80. HTTPS is port 443.
443.
Then we have database, for example, I think
Postgres.
Postgres is what?
Can't remember.
6603, something like that. Why there are some database that are 330. Okay, let's have it. Let's say Postgres. It's not like this is not like that's the port. That's a default port. You can decide to give it another port. Postgres. It's called Postgres.
5432.
Okay, Postgres is 5432. You can say Postgre port 5. This is the default. It's not like it's a standard. You can decide to have another, say 5432. So if you are setting up a VM that will take traffic from Postgre, that means you have to enable 5432. Some UDP network carries more than that. When you're talking about UDP, you're talking about different level of networking, so you can give it a range, because different applications have different. You can say from 1,000 to 9,000. You understand? If you enable this range, means that even port 543 is within this range, Abby. And sometimes you can say, okay, let me just make it open to every port. You say from port 10 to port 9,000, meaning of 2 to 22 is inside Abby. Port 80 is inside Shea. Port, you understand? So you have to know the application before you to know the kind of port you need to enable. And that's where your firewall come in, your security group come in. Whatever you did not enable your security group will not have access to your network. Let's say SQL port. SQL port is what? Got the SQL port 1433. Understand me? So these are the things that you should take note of. 1433. 1433. And if you say the application is going to be connecting to MariaDB, the MariaDB port is 3306 as MariaDB, which is what we just mentioned before, 3306 as MariaDB. You understand me? MongoDB. If the application is going to be talking to MongoDB, you can say MongoDB. Okay, what is the MongoDB port? Sorry. I think our next class, let's talk about DB. Not this class, I'm talking about next week. MongoDB. See, the MongoDB has port 27017. So if your application is going to be talking to MongoDB, the port 27017 must be what? Enabled. Or else 017 will be enabled, or else that VM will not be able to communicate to that MongoDB. You understand me? And this is what you do in your security group. So when you say whitelist my IP, whitelist my port, what you are trying to say is that add my port to the security group that will be able to access that VM. You understand me? That's the meaning of the word whitelist. The word blacklist means make sure that this IP address did not connect to this VM. That's the meaning of the word blacklist. So whitelist means add, blacklist means remove. So they are all firewalls language. Is that okay? So let's go to practical now. Okay, so let's start with Bastion host. So any question? Any question?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you like the way we built this class? Together. You like it, Che?
Yes, it was insightful.
Which means if you are working in any company, they say you should give them a high-level diagram. You'll be able to draw something like this, Che? It also shows that you have experience. They'll say, this person has been working on. He has experience. So if you also see a high-level diagram like this, you should understand what they mean. You understand me? And what they should do. We already set up this. So what we are going to do, we already set up this, but we've not put VM in this. So somebody is going to share the screen now. They are going to create a private VM. We're already having a Bastion host. I'm going to create 3 private VM in different subnets, but it's the same VPC. So who is going to share? Who will be the first person to share? So
I can share my screen.
Start sharing now. Okay, go ahead.
I'm disabled, please.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody called me.
Yeah, I was just trying to ask you to run through that quotes again. What 22 means, 80. I'm trying to write them down. Yeah.
Okay, let me just run it again. Different port has their own name. This port is allocated to it's not like we are the one that created it. It's a network port. You know, they have a classification that was given to them, to everybody. So port 22, when you hear enable port 22, what you're actually talking about is SSH. That's port 22. Port 80 is not secure, is unsecure network. You can have 80, 8001, you understand? 8081, 8082, but all those ones are under port 80 or 8000. You understand? That's port 80. All website. Have you noticed that whenever you connect to some website, they will tell you that this website is not secure, does not have an internet, does not have an SSL key, security server secure share license. You understand? So it does not have SSL stuff. Then that kind of services is most times port 80. This port 80 does not have any encryption, meaning that as the message in the server is sending it directly to everybody. So it's not encrypted. You understand me? That's port 80, HTTP. But when you say HTTPS, HTTPS is actually in port 443. You understand me? Meaning it has an encryption like what we have now. You can see on top. Can you see my screen? You see this top here, this key
Yes.
here. See this key here. If I click it, it will tell me the security of the site. It said connection is secure, Abby. If I click connection secure, you see certificate valid. If I want to know the kind of certificate they use, I can click here. Understand me? This is the security. So any site you connect to, like directly like this, is basically most times port 443. What about UDP? You see, we are using Zoom now, Abby. That Zoom that we are using is using UDP. It's not using port 443. You understand me? But the port 443 is what we use to connect to our Zoom. But right now we are not using port 443. We are using a different port. If I go to my server and my system now, I say, okay, tell me the kind of network I'm using. You notice that I'm not just using, when you are using any application that carries so much data, most times, like Zoom, like YouTube, you connect to YouTube through HTTPS, but streaming from YouTube does not use HTTPS. You're using a UDP to stream. So
What's the meaning of UDP?
well, let me show you. I think unified something like that. Let me just, okay, user datagram protocol. So it's more like it's close to TCP, you understand me? But it's mostly used for data transmission. So it's a communication protocol that primarily used to establish a low latency, loss tolerant connection between applications on the internet. When you are using a UDP, UDP does not care if the number of the data that is transmitting from the primary to the secondary is the same. What it does is that it ensures immediately there's a connection between the primary and the secondary, meaning the server and the person that is receiving it. There's a connection. Another person is getting the data. So UDP is okay. But there are some internet protocol that immediately there's a little dot of data dropping from the data that is being sent from the source, it will return to you that there's an error. Such like SMTP, you understand me? And even some TCP protocol also have that. But when it comes to UDP, UDP is basically used for massive datagram protocols for mostly for data transmission. But it's not even interested in if the data is complete. That's why it has loss tolerating connection. That's why they use the word loss tolerating connection, and low latency doesn't care if there's a loss in the connection, in the data that is being transmitted. So that's why it's best used for streaming, for from connection from one place to the other, data, on anything data streaming. Use UDP, and they also have their own port. So you can write it down.
So what about 5423?
That 5423 is for Postgres. Postgres is another relational database application that enable you to save your files, that enable you to save user files. And if you want to connect that file, you use a language called SQL, structured query language, to pick that file from people. It's like a storage, but it's not really like a storage like that. It's an application that enable you to save files and retrieve files the way you want it. Maybe you've heard of database, have you?
No, I work with it.
So Postgres type of database. Just like the way we have MariaDB, we have MongoDB and other DBs. So they have their own port. That's where you have 543. We have different. I'm not saying UDP is take the range of this, but so many UDP you have different ranges. It's not stable, so they can use any range. There's no specific UDP port. I think, let me see, there's a particular default. Let me see, there should be a default UDP port. UDP port. Default. I say this one is giving you 53. It said most times this is standard. This is their default port for 53. Most common packages is we are sent to port 53. So if your application is going to be talking more of UDP, you have to enable port 53 in your server, in your security group. You can see I'm spending time to talk about this because this is what we are going to be doing. There's nothing more. This is what we are going to be doing. Every other thing is how to put application in server, because the Docker you're talking about is an application that you put inside a server. It's like, but just like, it's more like a system software. Like the Kubernetes you are talking about, the same thing. You understand me? So that is it. Please give me a minute. Okay, please, can somebody share the screen? Let's do something today. Delakbo, share your screen. I want to take us through the Bastion connection. Toby, share your screen. You're going to take us through the through the load balancer connection. Wiki. Lakon, is your system with you there? Or a Princeway. Your system is with you, Shay?
Okay, so we'll go first.
Princeway.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
want to take us through auto scaling. So let's start with Bastion. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Can you please enable the screen share, Patrick?
Just hold on. I think I've enabled it. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, let me try. Okay.
So the VM you created yesterday, is this still up or you shut it down?
It's still on.
It's still on.
Mhm.
Okay. For me, I don't want you to incur cost. I want to
Okay.
shut that VM down and you want to spin up another VM.
Okay.
This month I was billed $30.
Sorry, Patrick. I was bid $7.
I don't understand.
What is happening?
Didn't you were billed or you were warned that you're going to be billed?
I was billed. I was debited.
You were debited. Did you?
Yes,
But I told you to set up alert for billing. Did you?
I did set up alarm. In fact, I have set up a budget now. Anything above $10, I'll just shut it down.
But did they send you? If you set up alarm, they would have sent you a message that you are
No.
exceeding your free tier limit.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't sent any message of such. I
Check
only
your
just
email or your
received
junk.
my bills today, an invoice and all of those things. But I've
Yeah, I got
adjusted that.
them too. I
I've
got them.
already put a budget above $10. I'm do. I mean, you should at 80% $10. But I
80%. Because last time I said you set billing for like $5 and put it 70%. That was our stuff. Even some of us even set $1 set.
okay. I think I missed those classes, but I've adjusted those anyways.
Please set it up. Prince, please do the same. I think that was in our first class. We did that. I'm sorry
Yeah, I
about.
have to share my screen so that you show me because I don't know how to do those setting those costs later.
Okay, we'll do that later. I'm so sorry about that, but it was not supposed to happen. That's why you shut down. In fact, after tomorrow class, shut down. But then I used to enjoy mine almost like 2 weeks before I shut down the resources. Okay, set up a fresh VM. What you're going to
Okay.
do, set up a VM for one VM for public, and one VM for public, and 2 VMs for private, 3 VM for private. But we are going to be using just the one public and one private. But we're going to from one public to one private, from one private to another private. Is that okay?
So I've set up one public and 3 privates, right?
Yeah, set up one VM for public.
Okay.
And we should do same, right? So that
Yes, everybody do the same. One private, one public.
What's the place?
Please make sure you use the same key for all of them.
The same key. Okay. I leave the security group like this, right?
Sir?
I lead a security group like this, right?
I've already, you should, understand. You should know that now. I'm not supposed to even be talking from this place now.
No, because you just have to spin up an instant. Like you didn't say, okay.
Okay, hold on, please. Hold on, please. Let me see what we have. Okay, what was your question, please?
So I said, should I give it a security, an existing security group?
Yes, give it an existing security group. But you know, the existing security group, you know what is inside, Abby? Port 22, port 80, port,
Yes, yes.
443 and everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's all done.
Okay. Now you want to run some little command. I want you to connect to the instance. And from that instance, you connect to the other instances. But
Okay.
I will share the script in this chat.
Okay.
Now I want you to add, have you already have your private key? Do you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, these are the few scripts. Hold on. This key, this script, we add your PEM key to your known key agent, SSH key. I'll tell you what you are going, what it means. But let me just list the code first. You have two ways of connecting to it. It's called agent forwarding, key agent forwarding. What does that mean? It means that you are copying the public IP of the public IP of that private host. You want it to be copied into the private or the public to the private host. I'm listing out the actions you need to do. The first of all, you need to add the SSH key, which is that private PEM. You know that private PEM that you copied. You're going to add it to your known instance, your known private SSH key. Then after that, if it's added, you now use SSH-A, the user, which is EC2 or Ubuntu, the Bastion host IP address. You know the Bastion host, which is the public IP address of that your public use, and you enter. Immediately you're able to enter into the private stuff. This private key that you have will automatically be added to that Bastion host. You understand me? And if it's added to that your Bastion host, because the private key is already in your Bastion host cannot connect to the public host. Do you get it?
I just got distracted. I was trying to get in my PEM, my
okay, please.
My KPI.
Stop sharing your screen. Let me show this.
Okay, thank you.
Because this is one thing that people always miss, and it can become an issue. This is how to connect to a Bastion host. This is the nomenclature. It's called key agent forwarding. Key agent forwarding. You know, I told you for you to be able to connect to an instance, you must have the public IP and the private IP, Abi. That was what I said, Abi. The private IP and the public IP must be the same. So now, right now, when you downloaded, when you created your public IP, they gave you a private IP, Abi, and they kept the public IP inside the VM that you created. Private SSH key, Abi. And the public is already in the VM that is running in the AWS. The public is inside. Just like when we're creating, when we're doing our Git, Abi, we put our Git public IP inside the Git, Abi. You remember?
Yeah.
So what is going to happen now is this: our Bastion host, our Bastion host already have a private IP inside. So this from our local system now, which has a private IP, this is our local system, Abi, local. So this is our local system. When we downloaded that private key, we downloaded it into our local system, Abi. This is the VM in the AWS. Now our private instance does not have, this one is for public VM, Abi, public SSH in our public VM, also known as Bastion host, Abi. But this our private instance does not have this private IP. You understand? For us to be able to connect to either of these VM, this private IP must be inside. So we want this private IP as we are creating this. We want this, you understand me? As we are creating this, we want this private IP to be inside this public IP. So that if this private IP is inside this public IP, you can enter this VM. You understand me? You'll be able to connect to this VM. So we can from here to connect to here. But if this private IP is not here, if this private SSH key is not here, this instance will not be able to connect this. So the process of carrying this your private key, moving it to here and moving it to here is called key forwarding. It's called agent forwarding. You understand? The process of carrying this your private key to this place, then this VM will also have the private key and move it to this place. It's called key forwarding.
Agent forwarding.
Agent forwarding. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick, I understand this, but what you told me to create was one public VM, right, and 3 private, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to double check. Thank you.
So it's forwarding forwarding private SSH key from one instance to another. You understand me? When you are forwarding the private key from one instance to another, it's called agent forwarding. You get it? So, because this is public, this is private. You cannot from here to connect to this place because why? This is private. But this one can connect because they are in the same VPC. So they can connect.
I have a question, Patrick, but is it possible I go from private straight to public, to the last public?
No.
Okay.
The only way you can connect these two, you cannot connect to the private because the private is in a private subnet, meaning nobody can connect to it unless you are in the same VPC. The only way you can do that, if you have to do that, is to bind your VPC with this VPC. And that's called intranet.
Okay.
Because I mean, this VPC, this is a VPC. Our own, we have our own VPC, but it's in a public, in our own domain VPC. You understand me? Our local system has its own VPC. But when you bind these two VPC together, it's called intranet. So it means that your system will not be part of those, you understand? Will not be part of the VPC. That means you are binding these two VPC together. And in this case, you can call it VPN. So this is a VPC. You understand? This is a VPC. Oh, sorry. I'm trying my best to make it so simple for everybody. Remember I mentioned that some company has VPN, Abby? I told you now. Most cloud resources have these resources where you can bind these two together. If you can bind these two together, it means that everything becomes private. You understand? But since we've not bind them together, the only way you can access it is through this public. So you can only access through this public. Then this public can now, because this public is in the same private VPC, you understand me? With this is in the same VPC. So this one can now connect to this. Man, this, thank God we have to this class. Look at what things I would have missed sharing because of this mom and idiots. You know, rich. Okay, now I wanted to make it straight. Make it straight now for yourself. Straight up. Straight now. Okay, we understand. I will straighten it later. Now, so this from here, this system can connect to this system. But this system, other VPC, for you to be able to connect from here to another VPC, it must have this private stuff and they must be in the same VPC. So what we're trying to do, we want to from here to connect to this place, from here to connect to all the VPC. Possible from here to connect to all this place, but it's not secure. It's not always best practice to connect from one private subnet to another private subnet. So is that what you do? You connect to this place, you move, you connect to another one, and you connect to another one. But you can do it too. Does that mean? So you can connect to here, connect to here. But they may ask you in an interview, how do you connect to your private subnet? You say through a Bastion using key agent forwarding. No, sir. It already pass and be that. Not finish. Not pass that one, no. And not fit up another thing. So this is what key forwarding, agent forwarding. So these are the code you need to run. I'm putting it here because I know after this class, so in case you are reviewing it, you'll be able to see it. First of all, sorry.
So while you write this, just to reiterate, so we are opening 4 instances, the public, 1 public and 3 private. The public, you create a key pair for the public, and you create a single key pair for the 3 private before we come into this. Is this correct?
What is this is that you create 2 private or 3 private, as the case may be.
Okay.
Then when you are creating it, they are going to ask you for the key agent, which for the they are going to ask you to download the SSH key, Abby. You download your SSH key into your local system, which is your PEM file.
Yeah.
Then
and so
after downloading it,
So it's just one.
Hold on. I mean, when you create your public instance, you create a key pair. And when you're creating your private instance, I mean, you're not creating one by one. You're just doing create 3 instances, but it's private. Are you creating a
yes,
key pair for that?
The key pair, you use the same key pair across board.
Across board, fine. So you have 1 public and 1 private.
Yes.
Perfect.
No, not 1 public. One public, 1 private key pair that you are downloading is what
Yes.
you want to use. Say all the instances you have the same key pair.
Yes, because you're opening 3 instances at once with the same parameters.
Yes.
That's fine. I got that.
So these are the things we are doing. So I'm trying my best to make it easy. I can build this class in Essential. I will just come and start teaching it. But I want you guys to see how the class was built and also refer to it in case you miss your way. You understand? And get yourself. In case you also want to become a lecturer, you want to become a lead like Toby, you understand? In fact, if everything goes well, some of our students here, I know I really went granular more. So some of us here can also be part of our facilitator, even after you've gotten your job. You understand? Abi, you don't want us to. We should change the word now, Shay. Shay?
Oh yes, the more you impart knowledge, the better you become.
The more the knowledge increases. So this illustration is easy, Abi. This is how to connect to Bastion. So first of all, add that key pair to your own key pair, known keys. Then you add it, then you SSH your agent key, which is your private key pair, you understand, into the Bastion host, you understand? Then, but if you are using PuTTY, it's also easy to use. PuTTY is even the easiest way to do. But if you can understand this way, it will be easy for us to. Okay, now let's go. You've understood this, have you? Okay, now share your screen. Somebody have left the house. Ooh. Somebody left the house. Yes. The same way has left. Somebody reach out to us straight. I will not have the energy to continue this class. Again, to say this class again. Oh yeah. Even as somebody reached out to our Dollar, please continue your sharing. Then this guy also left too. What's his name again? This guy left too. So Ifeanyi left. So they shot on him. They shot him up. So.
Okay, Patrick, please, what's the next step? I'm done creating those instances with the same, but with the same term.
Run those scripts that I shared on your stuff.
Okay.
Dolapo, your mic is on mute. Huh? We can hear you humming.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, guys.
I'm enjoying the song. Why do you want her to mute?
Okay, Patrick, please, this is where I need your help. So I go to the private instance, right, and get the.
Coming.
Yes, boss.
Okay, have you been able to SSH into the instance?
Okay, so into which of the instance? Is it the
The
private or the
public.
public?
The public. You cannot
Okay,
SSH into the,
gotcha.
I just told you
Private.
there's no how
Okay.
you can SSH into the private.
That's right.
But you have to run that script as I shared, or else you will not be able to SSH into the private. Or the other
Into
way
the
around,
public.
I can also show you the other way around. Either
Okay.
two things, these are the two things you do. If you don't want to follow through all those key agent thing, another thing you do is that you copy that public IP, you create a file inside a private stuff. You understand me? And let's do that one. I think that should be the best way. Do you have any authenticator? Put your authenticator. You have to authenticate.
Yes. Okay, so it's saying unable to load resident key, device not found.
Okay, use the second one. Let me see.
No
Okay.
such file as L.
You don't have it. You don't have the create. You've not created the file. You not created the stuff. What you do,
Is there a space
this
between?
no, no, no. There's no space. There's no space.
Okay.
There's no space. You are supposed to add. Sorry. I wanted you to add this key to your agent forwarder, and it's saying internal failure for the indicator fail. Unable to load resident key device not found.
Mhm.
Is this? Are you sure you're in the directory where this file is?
Yes, I am.
Let's see.
On my local, on my document.
Already there.
Mhm.
Okay, what you do, that, okay, put that tint, that tint sign, tint slash. Okay, don't worry, let's make it easy. No, let's not make it hard. Copy that SSH key. Open the SSH key. Because I like using derivatives, you understand me, which is first principle. But you know what you are doing, so you don't make mistake. Open out your file.
Okay, I should put my file.
In that file, that Bastion host file.
Okay.
Cut it. Copy every file here.
Okay.
From the beginning, including those arrows that are there.
Is it okay?
No, not from there. Not from there.
Okay.
Move your hand. There's a key under. You see the dollar at Cloud Enthusiast?
Yes.
No. Yes, from there. Copy from there. Yeah. Copy.
Okay. Okay.
Open another browser and keep that. No, don't worry. Don't worry. Use this key, SSH into that first key.
What's SSH? Oh,
No money now. Just say SSH -I
I.
I. Open your colon. Your colon
Bastion.
now.
Semicolon, right?
Semicolon. SSH into that. You have to put the public IP address.
Okay, just
Remember sudo.
Have you enabled that SSH key to be used by? Have you changed the mode?
I changed the mode. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, so I may have to recreate this instance again.
Why?
Sorry. I didn't give you the public ID address.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to quickly spin up an instance.
Hurry up. Well, I'm even of the opinion.
Yes. I am on it right now. It's just coming up.
Have you entered now?
I think it's still reading.
Are you the one sharing your screen now?
Yes, I'm the one sharing my screen now.
It's not supposed to take this time.
It's just, I don't know why it's just.
Please cancel it. Remove that sudo command. Just run it straight.
Okay.
Are you sure are you sure your VM is actually from your VM is actually the private IP? Because for you to take this long means that something is wrong.
A private or a public?
The public VM you created, which subnet is it? Which security group did you use?
The normal security group I have. Oh, sorry. It's still initializing.
Refresh, let's see. Okay, it's up now. Let's go. Kill it and restart. Something is not right. Kill it. Go back to your instance. Create another instance, or check the subnet is in public subnet. Check the security group that you've used.
The security group I use is the one I created earlier.
Let me see.
Nginx. So just so you know.
Have you used it before?
Yes.
I think something is wrong with that Bastion house, because it's taking longer than expected. Try it again.
Okay.
So what it's telling you now, you're not supposed to even use sudo. Remove that sudo now. Remove the sudo. Create another instance. Delete that instance. Okay. Create another instance. I don't. This one's not supposed to be what will give us the time. It's not supposed to take our time at all.
Yeah, sorry guys. Or maybe anybody that can access that one can try.
You actually created 2 instances, have you?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Quickly create. Then Toby.
Oh, yes.
Toby, go to internal load balancer. Share your screen now. Go to load balancer. Share your screen, please. Princeway, are you there? That's where I've left. This last really took more than expected. More time. You know what we'll do? I think we have already exhausted our mind. Most of us are exhausted. So we're going to push this class in tomorrow. Is that okay?
That's perfect. It's all right.
At least by then, what I want you guys to do, try to SSH into one of the instances, and from that instance, SSH to another instance. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
let's come in time tomorrow. Lekon, hope you're able to catch something.
Let me exit this one and just.
Lekon, hope you're able to learn something today.
So,
are you hear me? I'm following.
You are following, okay. Mr. Demola, hope you're able to catch something. Huh?
Mr. Patrick, sorry, I'll call you. Yeah, I'm actually following, but I think I need to call you after the class.
Okay, let's begin tomorrow, because this thing is easy. It's not as a bit. At least we were able to. It's easy. Just that maybe we are a bit stressed. You know, a lot have really been shared today. You know, we really shared a lot of information today. So, well, I want us to practicalize it out. So let's just end the class today for sanity's sake. Yeah. Dollar, well, you really did well. Everybody did well. But let's get ourselves refreshed tomorrow. You can stop all the instances you are not using. Okay, see you tomorrow. Same time. Same
I didn't know I was still sharing my screen. Sorry, guys.
Same time, same station. Let's come in time. And let's have fun. And if you have any question, reserve it tomorrow. We'll treat all the questions. and don't feel shy to ask questions. Thanks again for coming to class 24 enthusiast. My name is Osatoye Patrick Aibogo. We'll resume again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Patrick is coming up now.
Yes, it will. It will. I know it will. But let's not overstress ourselves.
Bye, everyone. I'm just, yeah.
Tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this class. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.